All right, well, let's get started. So, so this is Ready or Not, Exit or Pivot. And basically what we're going to do is talk about exiting or pivoting and some of the challenges that go along with that. We got another person. So what I'm going to do is start out with a little bit of a mindfulness exercise and prayer. This is a way for us to reconnect to our, our whole selves, to let go of any tension and to kind of clarify what we want to get out of this meeting. So if you could just sort of relax for a minute. And by the way, we're on Facebook Live. We've just done that. So I think there's a 10, there's quite a lag, but we're on it. So hi, Dawn. And hi, Lynn, you're here. Okay, so we're going to do a little mindfulness exercise. So if you could just sit back in your chair, you can close your eyes and just relax for a minute and take a deep breath. And as you relax, just sort of let all the muscles that you're holding, just let them go. And take a deep breath and just imagine it all going, just everything just sort of relaxing. And then do a body scan. So that means that you're going to just notice whatever you notice in your body. It's sort of a marker. And then just take a deep breath and relax and let it all, let everything go. So this is one of the ways that we can really connect with our deeper self, our unconscious, and also the healing components of our lives. So clarify what you want to get out of this meeting. And try to be as specific as you can. What is it? Why? What brought you here? What do you hope to get out of that? That'll help you filter and hone in on the information that's the most important for you. All right, and then I'll just do a simple prayer. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share the knowledge and wisdom that Linda and I have. We're so grateful she's here. We're grateful for the organizations that have supported us and watched over us. We request that you give each person exactly what they need from this time period. Amen. All right, so what I'd like to do is start with just, Linda, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'd love to, and thank you so much for having me, Marcy. I'm super excited to be here because I adore entrepreneurs. I've actually spent the last over 30 years as an accountant and a CFO for both public and private companies. And I actually specialize in companies that are in trouble. So I go in, and most of the time I see organizations that have amazing products and services, but they're struggling with the financial part of the business. So I go in and help them get straightened out and either relaunch them on a way to be profitable and to grow, or if they decide that they're done, I help them package the business up and sell it. So I a couple of years ago, actually, I did a little bit of a pivot myself. I started this business called Real Family Finance, where I actually coach women on personal finance. And I also continue to coach small business owners. So that's my spiel.
Yeah. So I'm doing holistic business coaching. And my focus is to look at the mind, body, and spirit components that make us successful or limit our ability to be successful. I have actually gone through a couple of exits. They were rather traumatic. And in part, it was because I didn't plan my exit early. And so part of the reason for this topic is to help you avoid some of the challenges of exiting. So let's see, our first topic here, taking stock of your business and yourself. So let's see. So go ahead, Linda, you want to take that one?
Yeah, so, and put me back on track if I need back on track, Marcy here.
Okay.
I think this topic is just so interesting because not just because we're in COVID, and I think there's a lot of businesses that are facing right now places that they didn't expect to be in their business. But before you even talk about pivoting, one of the things as a business owner you have to be thinking about is exit. And this is actually something that I ask every one of my clients. It's the very first question I have for you. What is your exit plan from your business? And I know that seems counterintuitive when you're just starting a business. Or when you're just starting to really invest in growing your business, you're thinking, man, I'm just trying to grow this thing. I'm not thinking about exit. But the reality is that depending on what you want to do with this business at the other end, you're going to make different kinds of decisions. For example, if it's a business that you want to run until you're in your 70s or 80s, it's a lifestyle business. So you're going to want to create something that balances your life. Versus if you want to build it to sell it, then you're probably going to be way more intense in your first few years, and you're going to be making decisions around making it very sellable and whatever that means for your particular business. So it's important to really stop and think about that, like today. So highly suggest that's something you as a take.
And I think, and so that's the, like, starting from the start of your business. But now let's say that you're in the, you realize that, or you have in the back of your mind, like me. So I knew I had to pivot, but I wasn't really interested in, I just didn't want to go there. So let's say you know that at some point you're going to have to pivot. What are the sort of factors that you want to consider when you're deciding whether to exit or pivot, like, your family situation, or are you out, those sorts of things?
I think there's a couple of things. I think you have to be very honest with yourself as to whether there's a business there or not. And that is beyond the fact that we're in COVID. COVID is forcing people to really look at their businesses maybe, and that there's outside influences, but you have to get realistic and say, is there an actual business here that's making you money? The second thing is that, and this one I know is yours, is much more yours, Marcy, is does your business inspire you? Like, are you having fun? Do you like going to work? So if the answer is no, there's not a viable business, and no, I'm not inspired, then maybe it's not the time to pivot. But if this is just, you're at a point where you're like, I love what I do, but it's maybe I'm not quite making enough money, or this COVID and it's like throwing a wrench in it, but I really want to do this, then you should be exploring some pivot options.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think you also want to think about how it's impacting your family. It's one thing to be saying, what do I want? But, a lot of people are creating businesses because they want this for their family later on. And so if it's not a viable business, do them a favor. I think that would be the sort of advice. Wonderful. So we've got pivoting and exiting. So how do you determine whether, or what's your strategy for considering pivoting? Like, how would you go about that?
Oh my God. This is one of the funnest things you can do. So I know that people sit there and say, I'm completely stressed out and I can't even imagine pivoting right now. But one exercise that I always suggest for my clients, and this is actually something I have them do once a year, whether there's a COVID thing going on or not, you need to do a brainstorm. So get a bunch of people that like, trust, that know your business. It could be employees, it could be family, it could be customers, it could be vendors, and get a few of them together and put like those giant sheets of paper up on the wall, and take your business and like literally write it in the middle. And mind dump of all the things around your business that are related, that could potentially be things that you could expand into. And don't try to like judge it, just get as many ideas out as you can. Then once you're done, you can step back, and you've now created all kinds of roadmaps of potentially ways that you could go that you can now explore. So that's what I suggest if you're thinking about pivoting is your first step. And it's not only is it eye-opening, and not only is it and it's not something you can do by yourself. You need to bring in other people, because they're going to see your business differently than you do. Like, don't assume that you have to have all the answers. Like, use your resources around you.
Yeah, no, one of the things that's really important is in building your business is having the resources and working with other people. You're not going to be an expert on everything. And so you need to sub that stuff out. Even if you're starting a business, that brainstorming can maybe help you think of things in a little different way. And it may open up opportunities that you didn't think about before. So I think that's, yeah, go ahead.
Marcy, was that a challenge that you found when you had your software business?
What?
That like feeling sometimes as an entrepreneur that you have to be able to do everything.
Absolutely. And then you think about the money. And if you don't have enough money to buy the people that experts, then you sort of get closer and closer. And so, I think that's really a factor when you're starting a company. You've got to conserve your resources as much as you can with bootstrapping, but then there's also recognizing what you are and aren't good at. So and for me, so the software company was forms processing for parents sending their kids to schools. And for me, because I was the designer, I knew all the flaws. So it made me the very, very worst person to go out and sell the product. So so going back to pivoting, give us some ideas of type, like bullet points of pivot ideas that often come up.
So some of the things that I've seen that people pivoting, especially recently, getting very specialized. Like, take something that you do really, really well and make it like a very specialized package. For example, I have one client who does spas, specifically at hotels. So what she has done is, like, because everybody's a little freaked out about going to a spa, she's now offering 8-hour packages where you come in for the day and you have all these different services. So you don't have to keep coming back. And because she's working with a clientele that frequently a wife is coming with a husband who's someplace on business and she doesn't want to go out because of COVID, like it's taking off and she's doing very well on that. I have another client that has a facility, and she doesn't want to, the nature of her business is she's not having people come in anymore, but now she has this whole building that's empty. So she's finding some other ways to use that space. Like, she's finding other people in related fields that can't afford their rent because of COVID. So now they're renting some space from her. So she's reusing the facility that she has. Some other pivots, trying to think of. I've seen another one, a publisher, actually a distributor, somebody who distributed magazines, who ended up buying a publisher so that he actually became one of his own customers, because he's like, I know the business, I know the advertisers, I know how to market it, I know how to like get it out there to the people. So I might as well take up this opportunity, because somebody was selling, to jump in and actually make a publication myself. So, and the idea is that it's use the things that you currently have. It's the facilities you have, it's the services, it's the employees that you have. And it's look around at the people around you as well. It's the related services. So maybe you have a vendor who is struggling. So maybe you guys decide to combine businesses, or maybe you see that he's not going to make it. So you say, you know what, he's not going to make it. I know he's got customers. I'm just going to go and I'm going to start offering that service. And because we're talking to a lot of the same people, I'll fill a gap. So those are some examples.
Yeah.
Of pivots,
so
right?
definitely the brainstorming is really critical, because that's where you get a lot of these ideas, and then you can be creative about doing that. Yeah, awesome. And so exiting is a different animal. That's basically saying that you're out of inspiration. You recognize that you don't want to keep going forward. And so what do you have? Tell us a little bit about what the options are, and what are the things that you need to do in order to get ready to exit?
Okay, so two great questions. First, you got to figure out who is going to buy you. And this kind of goes back to the first question I said, where if you have been thinking about your exit, you've been sort of laying the groundwork right along. Are you a lifestyle business? Like a lifestyle business might be a plumber. You know, he is his business if he doesn't have a whole team underneath him. He may have a very solid stable of clients that he can then actually sell to another plumber who, did I say plumber or electrician? Whichever, you know what I mean.
Plumber.
I love my contractors. I'm like, but you might have a stable of clients that you can then sell to that plumber who then will be able to step into an ongoing income stream. So, which kind of brings me to the whole thing. You have to think in terms of exit. What is somebody buying? For example, are they buying that income stream? Or are they buying a business where maybe you're not fully in it, or maybe you are pulling a salary, but the business is kicking off additional profit in cash? So the way that businesses are valued, so then the next thing is you really need to understand how your business is valued. So if you want to go sell it, you need to, it's not like selling houses down the street where you can go on Zillow and you can see what the houses on your block have been selling for. Every industry is different. So it's really important that you understand how your industry gets bought and sold. And one of the really effective ways you can do that, if you're getting close to wanting to sell, is getting a valuation done. And you can get a valuation done. You can actually Google, or actually if afterwards, if you're interested, reach out to me and I can actually send you in the direction of a few valuation people. They'll tell you, and it's going to cost you a couple $1,000s, but it's going to tell you what your business is worth, how it gets valued, and they're going to tell you if there's been any deals in your area, so you can start to get a feel for what your business might be worth.
You mentioned also, you can also go to your local bank, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's going to say, you can go to a valuation company. You can also go to your local bank and ask them for some insight, because they're valuing businesses all the time when they're doing loans. So they're going to probably be able to give you some good ideas about how your business should be valued. And the other is you can talk to a business broker. Business brokers are similar to realtors, but a little bit different. They're a little bit more independent. It's not necessarily as easy to buy and sell businesses, but frequently a business broker is also just sitting and meeting with them. They're going to give you some good indicators about how you should think about valuing your business. You know, is it a lifestyle? Is somebody buying cash flow? Are they buying revenue? I mean, that's the third big way. So there's income from life business, there's profit being thrown off, and then third is revenue. Because there's some businesses that may not care that you're not making a lot of money, but the fact that you created this business that's generating revenue, it's cheaper for them to buy you than it is for them to go build it themselves. So that might be a third reason that they would want to buy you. But it's important to understand why someone wants to buy you.
So the next is when you're thinking about pivoting, and you need to have certain factors before you negotiate. And so, you know, you need to have your clean books, right? And your contracts clear. The more you can have standard operating procedures written down so that you can see what that is, that's also really important. And then the next thing is how much have you put into it? Now, given the market, you may not get out of it what you put into it. Linda, can you speak to that whole disconnect between how much value you've created and how much money you've put into it and what you can actually sell it for?
I got to tell you, Marcy, this is one of the hardest things for small business people. I see all the time that people pour a lot of money into building their businesses, again, not understanding how it gets valued. So they may be pouring it in ways that they'll never get back. If your books are clean, you should be able to take a look and see on your balance sheet, between your balance sheet and your income statement, how much money that you've actually put into the business. And it's definitely an important number, but a business is only going to be worth what somebody's willing to give you money for. So you have to sort of use it as a guide and say, this is how I built it. This is what it's cost to build. but you also have to be open to what can I get, because sometimes it might be better to take something than to take nothing.
And I've got an example of that. So a painful example of that. I had a deli greenhouse, and I had a really great vendor in there. They were doing pastries and sandwiches, really going well. And then the mortgage crisis hit. And nobody was buying. They were still fine, but nobody was going out for lunch. And so they failed. And then instead of saying, okay, I got to get rid of this too, or I don't have anybody else. I got somebody else in there. They failed. Another person in and failed. And then I was like so shocked that I was going to lose all this money that I held on to it for months longer than I needed to, and ended up even getting less than I would have if I had done it much earlier. So it's truly a devastating process, just as you say, but you think you got to be realistic about when it's a good time to sell. And was it you that said you sell your business not when it's convenient to you, but when it's the right time in the market? Was that you?
It was not, but I like that. It's one of the hardest things. One of the things that I really try to work with my clients is having we talked about the books being clean, and there's two reasons to have your books clean. Number one, so that if you ever want to sell your business, somebody who wants to buy it can come in and actually really understand it, and they can figure out how they're going to run your business. And the only way they can really do that is by seeing your books and seeing how much revenue you create and what it costs to actually run the business. But sorry, total mind blank here. So it's important to have your books clean. But the other thing is, if your books are clean, they're going to inform you on your future planning. So if you're choosing to pivot, if you're in business and you're continuing to grow, and you might decide to exit, but you might realize that it's going to take you a couple of years before you're really ready to exit, to get to the optimum point to exit. If you understand your numbers and your books are clean, you can put a plan in place that you can see what you should expect to happen. And what I always say for people in that situation is that if you put together a forward plan, you have milestones, and those milestones should include that you're making money and you're making a reasonable amount of money. And I think a lot of business owners don't do that. They just keep hoping every month that things are just going to keep going and they're going to be fine. Mm-hmm. But then you never have anything to measure it against. And a lot of time I see that the business owners aren't pulling money out of the business. And that's not what you want to be doing. You really want to be able to see how you're going to be making money. And it may not be this month. It may be a couple of months away, but you should be able to see what has to happen for you to be able to pull some money out.
Yeah. And there's this great book. It's called Profit First. I brought this up. And basically what it says is pay yourself first. You take a salary first, and then you pay the expenses. And the reason for that is because the reason you started this business was not only to serve the community or offer something that's really valuable, but also to pay yourself a living wage. And I did it. What's that, Lynn?
The author of that book?
The author is Michalowicz. There it is.
Michalowicz.
Yeah.
And guys, the other thing about this is that it's like there's a twofold side to this. Not only are you paying yourself first and actually taking money out of the company, but what you're doing is that you're now turning your business into a money-making machine that when you go to sell it is now worth more. Nobody wants to buy a business that the owner says, I get it all set up and I bet in 6 months you're going to be able to pull some money out. They'd much rather buy a company that you've set it up so that from day 1 or from day 30, you can show, hey, I built this and I've been pulling money out right along.
That's a really great point. So does anybody have any questions, thoughts right now?
Yes, I have a couple questions.
because the English is not my first language, so sometimes I like to get the things clear to understand the word she just said, like pavement. When she mentioned pavement, I want to understand if it's the pavement is the organization, that the whole process you do for the business, just the words
So
inside.
the pivot means to turn. That's the term pivot, is just turn and do something different. So when we talk about pivoting, we
Mm-hmm.
talk about saying, well, I'm not ready to close the business,
Mm-hmm.
but what are my other options? And so the brainstorming is a way of saying, what are the other options that are around? And then maybe choosing something else. So if you're selling, I know you want to do a juice bar. So if you're selling a juice bar and that's not working quite as well as you wanted, you might look around and say, well, I could do coffee, or I could do something else. I could do specialty drinks. Then you might still be doing the juice, but you might pivot and include coffees and those kinds of things. That would be an example of a pivot.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay.
And also the when she say about the books cleans, if you have your business book cleans, doesn't mean what they mean, real.
So yeah, go ahead, Linda.
That's a really, really good question,
Great
because
question.
I gotta tell you, I would say about 95% of the time when I start working with clients, their books are not clean. And the reason, so being clean means that if you, for example, if you've got a juice bar, you want to be able to show on your income statement, your revenue, a breakdown of where is the money coming from, like what of your products is profitable. So that's what you want to be able to ultimately show. So you've got to be able to show how much money you earn from each of your products. And then you need to be able to show what does it cost to actually deliver those products. And you want your books to be over a period of time. So what I frequently say is that if you look at a 12-month period, say January to December, somebody will take in, they'll pay their rent every 3 months. So they put the rent in just in March and in June, and then maybe they pay it in October. So the problem is that when they're looking at their financials across time, they can't really tell if they're making any money every month.
Okay.
So it should be, when you look at your numbers, I know a lot of times they feel really intimidating. You want to create your books so that you can look at them and they help you understand where you made money and where you didn't make money. So that's on the income statement. Then you've also got your balance sheet, which is the other half of your financials, which basically shows things like how much cash you have, how much money people owe you, what you owe people. And you want that to be clean as well, because it's number one, as a business owner, you want to be able to understand how much cash you have in the bank. You want to be able to understand how much money you owe anybody at any point in time. But when you go to sell your business, again, you want somebody to be able to look at your financials and say, if I had to run this business tomorrow, what is it going to cost me? Am I going to have to take a loan out? Should I expect to have a lot of cash or a little cash? So the only way that works is if your books are clean. And I know that the number side of the house is most of the time not any small business owner's priority or
Right.
favorite.
But that's where you hire somebody. You bring somebody in to help them set a budget for you, help you set benchmarks, and help you so that you can monitor how it goes. Because if you're not going to make it, which a lot of the small businesses don't make it, a lot of times you want to know that early. And for two reasons. One, if you find out that you're not doing well, maybe you can get some help and get some support, take a look and see where you need to shift things. Maybe the chai tea is way too expensive. The cost of it is, and so you can find a way to reduce that. So by having clear numbers up front when you're starting your business, you can see the problems arising much earlier than if you don't do that.
And Marcy, and it plays out between having a regular running business, but then when you want to do a pivot, if you choose to do a pivot, like doing a very simple little cash projection of if am I going to have to spend some money to do this? Or I'm going to try this new thing. What do I expect for revenue? Is it $1,000 a month? Is it $10,000 a month? Is it $50 a month? And then being able to say at the end of 1 month, did that happen or not?
Yeah, what great question, Jose. Do you have another question, Jose?
For now, I'm all set, but thank you for explanation because it was great.
This actually goes off of Jose's question. If I decide to sell, what would happen to the loans that I still own?
Okay, so if you sell your business, the first thing that you have to do with the cash that you get is pay off anybody that you owe. If you've got loans, this is something that as a small business owner and you're thinking about selling, you should definitely get plugged into. A couple of reasons. Number one, if you have, well, right now we're all hearing about the PPP loans. I don't know if anybody here has gotten a PPP loan or an EIDL loan because of the whole COVID thing. The PPP loans are going to be forgiven at some point, but we're still waiting for that to happen. So that you don't have to worry about paying back. But the EIDL loan, you will need to pay back. The other thing that I see is that business owners have taken out loans, especially SBA loans, and you should make sure you understand what happens if you don't sell your company for enough money to pay off that loan. You're still going to have to pay it off, and frequently you are personally on the hook for it. So if you owe $100,000 and you sell your business for $50,000, you're still going to have to come up with that other $50,000 to pay off that loan. So the loans all have to get paid off. That was a great question.
Yeah. Okay. So then when you're making a decision, so this was my experience when I was having to make the decision to pivot or exit, that there's a lot of resistance. First of all, the unknown. What does that mean? The shame of not succeeding in your business, and then the fear of what is really going to happen. And I think one of the things you want to do there is, take a moment, do some grounding exercises or whatever, but those things, shame and fear, first of all, shame, you started a business, you took the risk to start a business, and you had a vision for that and a purpose. So the shame part, you've already been successful. You've learned a tremendous amount about running your business. So no matter whether you're successful or you're not, you still have learned a tremendous amount of information. And an exit is a way of like closing the books or closing the chapter of your life so that you can actually move on to other things. It seems terrifying. There's a lot of unknown, but don't resist that. Take care of that, look at it, and be honest with yourself as to where you were. And what Linda says, small changes can lead to big results. None of this is going to happen in a day. The decision now to have a solid exit strategy is relatively small than it would be if you made it when you had to exit. So it's those kinds of things.
I think, Marcy, that you can't reiterate it enough. I mean, folks, you're all here because you're unique. Do you know how few people start small businesses? I mean, it's a leap of faith. It's a lot of hard work, and whether you only you can define what a successful exit is for yourself. Selling your business may be successful. You may feel successful, or you may beat yourself up because you didn't make enough. You may decide to just close the doors because you don't want to do it anymore. It doesn't make sense. But it's Marcy, I think you talk about this all the time, about how those are thoughts that you control, and we can make them positive. We can be grateful for the opportunity that we had to be entrepreneurs. And the reality is like 1 in 5 make it 5 years. So if it doesn't work, move on. The chances are really good if you've done it once, you're going to do it again. Yeah. And so don't let the negative feelings win. Stick with the positive stuff.
Yeah. So any other questions?
Sure. This is Carol. Linda, will you talk about businesses that are service oriented, that have very low overhead? So there's not much equipment or real estate. It's just kind of about the person.
As far as an exit?
Yes.
So you're talking about a lifestyle. Okay, so
Okay,
that's,
so hold on a sec. Carol, do you want to share what your business is?
Sure. My business is Garden 911, healthier habitats for people, pets, and pollinators.
okay. So what you're selling in your case is you're selling your client list, most likely.
Selling what? The client list.
Your client list.
Yep.
So this brings up actually something we didn't talk about, Marcy, but I think it's a great point. One of the things that when I do my brainstorming session every year with my clients is that we talk about exit at the same time, because it's really important that you always be working on potential exit strategies, because you never know when something might happen and you have to exit when maybe you weren't even planning to. And if you think about the people that are going to buy you, they're going to, most likely, you're going to have the most luck if it's somebody that you already know. So that could be an employee, that could be a vendor, that could be a customer, that could be a competitor. So you should spend a little time and do some brainstorming. Write down all of the people that you think potentially could buy your business, and then say to yourself, what do I have to do in the next 6 to 12 months to make this of something that might be interesting to them? For example, if it's an employee, do you need to start teaching them a little bit about the management side of the house, so that if you wanted to sell the business to them, they could take it over and be successful because they understood what you had to do to run the business? Is it a vendor? Start talking about, oh, we work really well together, and work on that relationship in ways that they could potentially say, well, I've been selling you products, but maybe I'd like to add a service offering. And oh my God, here Carol has all these customers and she doesn't want to do it anymore. I can just buy hers, and the business is already there. If it's a customer, maybe you have a customer that loves what you do and is always coming out and poking around and being like, Carol, tell me this, Carol, tell me that. And so you want to spend a little time with that person saying, I love it. It's like, this is what you have to do to make this happen. Is this something you'd be interested in? So you kind of get what I mean, but that is a great question, and what you're ultimately going to be doing is when you sell it, when you value it in a kind of a service industry, you're going to be basically taking the amount of money that you're pulling out, and that becomes somehow the basis for the price that you're going to set. And there's different ways that happens to get when you get super industry specific, but think about it. What would somebody pay to take over your income stream? What would it be worth? Would it be worth something they could pay out over 3 years? Say you're pulling out $100,000 and it's going to take them 3 years to kind of pay that off. Because you got to think about it. They're going to take it over. They're going to have to run the business and live while they're paying you, and if they don't have the cash up front to give you. So those are some of the things to consider.
And I think, that's one of the things when you're negotiating an exit, you want to know what the value of your company is to the potential buyer. And that's what you're going to trade back and forth with for what they want. So in a very simple world, let's say they want it, it's worth 100,000. You think it's worth 100,000 and they only want to pay 50,000. And you might say, well, we've got this. And so you're going back and forth, but you've got to know the facts about your business. You've got to know not just the hard money parts of the business, but the soft things, the relationships that you've built, the clients that you have, all those sorts of things. So there's a lot in the negotiation. And the first most important step is get your facts, do the brainstorming to find out what the value of your business is. Carol, for your 911, you're doing gardening, but you're doing a whole lot more, and you've built a website, and you have clients, and you've got a body of knowledge that over time that you've done videos and things like that. That's all valuable when you come to sell a business.
Absolutely.
I have a question.
Sure, Dawn.
Linda, what are your thoughts on, I have a service business as well. If I had an employee working for me and part of hiring her was to train her to take over my business. So let's say in 15 years, I want to semi-retire. Is that like a scenario that you recommend or not recommend? What are the pros and cons?
My recommendation is that you be very transparent and very fair. Like, you can't hire somebody today and assume in 15 years they're going to buy the business.
Of course.
Yeah, I mean, but no, it's a valid question, because I do think there's a lot of people that think that way. So think, if you want to, if it's that long term, think about it in your head and be doing things like invest in them and coach them
Right.
along the way. But I wouldn't put it on the table. When
Oh, sure.
you
You mean today?
Yeah, I mean, I also find that they seem to naturally evolve. If you have the right employee, they're going to naturally evolve. You're going to see they take on more responsibility. They treat it like it's their business, that you're not having to micromanage, that they're the kind of person that's saying, Dawn, what else can we do? Dawn, I have this amazing idea. Let's go try this marketing strategy. You'll see they're invested in the business. And then when you're ready to like figure out the semi-retirement or, you know, selling it to them, it's best, you enter a transition period. And my suggestion is always to make that transition period as short as possible, because everybody's in limbo. And I've actually just heard somebody yesterday that went into an agreement 3 years ago. And now, because of COVID and things are happening, this person wants to renegotiate the whole thing. It's like, you can't, you gotta be.
I see what you're saying.
Transparent.
It's short and sweet.
Yeah.
But I think, Dawn, I think it's also important for you to do standard operating procedures and, and take, you know, consider the fact that that person may be just the right person and suddenly disappear. So you want to be building value.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Procedures are key right now, because I want to put things in order to grow. And, but I was just curious on your thoughts on, though, as an exit strategy for a service-based business.
Oh, I think it's a terrific one. And actually, one other thought is like, there's a really good chance if it's a service business, this person's not going to have the cash to give you at exit. So they're going to have to pay you over time.
Yeah.
So it's in your best interest to make them successful over that period of time.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But then you always have that challenge of, you don't want to create a situation where they go out and compete against you, which is that.
Yeah, it can happen too.
Yeah.
But there's only one of you and people are buying you.
Right.
Other questions?
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, Nancy.
Hi, Linda. My name is Nancy, and I have an online store. And I would like to know, what is the best strategy, pivot strategy or exit strategy for online store, especially if you're selling a special product. The online store is, I sell Black dolls to promote diversity and to teach children to love themselves. And it's been struggling during COVID.
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
So I would suggest the same thing to you. Actually, I know that there's, and I can't think of the name off the top of my head, but there's a website that specifically sells online businesses. But for you, because you're doing something so kind of unique and cool, it's another place that you could totally tuck in under somebody else that's doing some diversity things or is selling other online products. One of the things that I see a lot of times is people start businesses around a product and versus like a series of products. So they get very good, they get very specialized, they get known, which is, you know what they say, you got to niche down to really be, it's a great way to be successful. So once you've created that brand and that kind of revenue stream, it makes it easier for you to kind of tuck in. This is a place where customers, distributors, those are people that you should be working on your relationships with. And I know it's a little bit harder because it's online, but it's one of the beauties of like Zoom is that you can have virtual coffee with people anywhere in the world. And for you, my suggestion would be take an afternoon a month, block it on your calendar and try to have virtual coffees with people and just make it a habit that you do all the time. It's actually interesting. There's a guy that I met several years ago, and his name is Steel something. His name is Steel, and he's super interesting kid. He went to BC High on a full football scholarship. He went and he was a linebacker for the Jets for a little while, and then he decided to get a real job when he was like 24. But super like put together kid. And his first real job after playing for the Jets was he went to work for a startup, which imploded like 3 months after he got there. And instead of just going in and jumping into a job hunt, he ended up having coffee with people. And he committed to having coffee with 3 people every week, 3 people he didn't know. And it was not about a job. It was just about meeting people. And now it's now 7 or 8 years later. And he might not do it 3 times a week, but he definitely does it once a week. And he's always like looking for interesting new people to meet. And his network is grown. And he just goes into every conversation with a totally open mind of, tell me about yourself. And people now just bring stuff to him. They bring business to him.
Yeah.
So that is something I think you should definitely do, because it's an amazing story. I love the doll and the diversity. And I think it's so important right now.
Yeah, and I think, Nancy, the other thing is that you've designed something. You know, you're very creative. You've had a vision. You've created this, but you may not be a marketing person. You may, you know, because you're coming up on Christmas now, okay? And so, you know, if you got onto Shark Tank and you had one of those sharks say, yeah, we're going to distribute that, you know, your cash flow, you might have some cash flow because of the ramp up, but that's would probably be the issue that you would need to focus on. And you, if you're not a marketer, you know, yes, you can use some, but get somebody who's a role model in marketing, who knows how to open the doors for you, because it's a wonderful product. I've seen your dolls. They're really special.
Yeah, and you find a good distributor that has that marketing for you. It might not even cost you anything.
Yeah.
No?
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Good luck.
All right, so we're coming up on the hour. Any other questions for right now?
If nobody has a question, I just have a finalist question. Like I'm starting a business right now. You give an example about the book cleaning and exit. So what's the advice you give it to me for me to start it? Because I don't have a book right now because I didn't start business yet. But what advice the step I should take before I start it to have a book and exit at the same time to visualize my business?
My suggestion would be that, first of all, do you get into Excel or get into Google Docs, because you can do it either way, and start putting together some financial projections. Start to think through. For example, if you're talking a juice bar, think through, how are you going to create your revenue? How many juices do you have to sell a day to create how much money that you're going to need? What is your rent going to be? What is your marketing going to be? What are your employee costs going to be? And I would lay out a 12-month plan, figuring you might sell 1 juice the first day that you're there. It might take you 4 or 5 months before you actually really get to a ramp rate. But think about it at a very bottom level, what has to happen. And then if you lay it out, it's going to tell you, number 1, what you should expect, so that you can, as it's happening, you can see if you're successful. Number 2, it's going to give you an idea of how much money that you're going to need to get started. The other thing it's going to do is that if you can see where you're going to be at the end of, say, 12 months, when you're completely up and running, you'll be able to see how much money this thing is throwing off, which you can then start to play out in your mind and in spreadsheets, how much bigger revenue that you can create, which then lets you think about an exit plan. Like And I'm oversimplifying because there's so many little steps that you have to do in between.
Right.
But it's thinking that, I mean, it's starting maybe with that first question, like why are you doing this? Are you trying to create something you're going to have forever, or you just want to build it and sell it?
Right. And I think that's so true. And even when you're doing a business plan and you're going to the bank, they're going to want to see what your plan is, what your story is, why are you the right person to be opening this business? And then for them to see that you've got realistic projections about what it's going to cost, because they're going to lend based on your projections.
And also because you give me the example of pavement, because I already I didn't know that word before, but I did my pavement for this business because I want to do juice bar, but I introduced the vegetarian. I'm going to do the cooking vegetarian food, which is the vegan food. Just to open the kitchen is going to cost me more money and plus more time with the city to all those requirements. But I want to do this because I think in my head, with juice bar, if I cook vegan food, I'm going to try more customer. Even it's going to cost me more money and many times, but I think in the overall more years, I'm going to get more money on that.
I can tell you, Jose, I'm vegan, and there's a shortage of vegan restaurants. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
No, I'm not a restaurant, but I'm going to do like a open vegan market, with the food. So you can go, you get your fresh food, and then you can order if you want to, all the possibility. Yeah.
Yeah. Wonderful. All right. So just to give you contact information and upcoming events. Let's see here. I'm going to share this, and then I know Lynn, you've got to leave. So this is the upcoming events. There is a Launch Your Business Mastermind that is coming up. It's starting this Friday at 9 o'clock, and it runs for 10 weeks. And we'll be taking the information from these webinars, which will be happening for 10 weeks, and using that as part of our launch off for this, the mastermind group. We'll be helping each other, brainstorming all the different things that you need to help you grow your business. Next Tuesday at 12, we're going to have Vision to Reality, and we're going to look at 5 steps to organically grow your business idea. We'll be talking to some people that have done that. So hope you'll join us for that. Both Linda and I do individual and group coaching, and we'll also offer a free consultation. So give us a call.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job.
All right, and thank you so much. We'll be
Thank you.
sending out an email with the link to this that you can share with people, and also with some post-event questions. So thank you so much, everyone. It's great to see you. Good luck with everything.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Have a
Good
great
job.
day. All right, bye-bye.
Thank you.